pretty girl, aren't you? Greedy, get the fuck away from them! Hello everyone, welcome to the second edition of reviewing anime figures. Like I said earlier on my previous one where we went over Coconut, this anime figure is one that is older. It's been around for a much longer time, from an older anime, Idolmaster, Cinderella Girls. Man, I feel old saying that that's an older anime. But it's definitely one of my favorite figures. It is of the pair of my favorite girls from the show Kirari and Anzu from Idolmaster. And of course, Ranko comes in at number 3, but that's a discussion for another time. This is a figure that I've wanted for quite a long time, and I managed to buy it during the Good Smile coronavirus sale, where we also got a bunch of little Nendoroid masks as bonuses for everything we bought. So that was pretty nice. And then I had to wait a year for it to get here, and now it's finally here. And I've got to say, my first impressions of this figure are about as expected. You know, I think it's a nice looking figure. Again, it is on the older side, so I feel like we have to be a little bit more forgiving when it comes to scuffs and that type of thing. But as I go over the figure, we will see. We will get down into the nitty gritty, and because there are 2 girls, 1 figure, I feel like it might be a little bit longer, but at the same time, if we just go from the tips of their ahoges to the tips of their toes, I feel like we should be able to get through this just as quickly as the last one. So, about the box for this figure, it is quite plain. You have a very good window to look through the front, but the only other window is on top, and you can't see too much from there. And it is quite plain. Again, it has, 1/8 scale figure, Kirari Moroboshi and Anzu Futaba, the Idolmaster Cinderella Girls. It's like, yeah, sure. Okay, thank you for telling me what I already know. Done by the Fat Company. It's, I don't know how many other Fat products I have, but, I think I've been told that they're a very respectable brand. The right side of the box, there's literally nothing. The back side of the box looks very nice. And there's a clock back there. Why wasn't that used for the stand? Well, you'll see me talk about the stand in a little bit. But the back of the box, I think it does a good job of advertising the figures. It shows that the hair is supposed to be attached to the shoes, and of course, choking hazards just in case the shoe falls off and somehow your 3-year-old child breathes it in. The left side of the box, another great render of the figure as it is floating, and it's very adorable. Bottom and top of the box, again, top of the box, you just have that window, bottom, nothing. Overall, again, a lot of potential lost in the presentation of the box, because I do know people that would display things in their boxes, and I am also one of those people that would display something in their boxes. I am actually have on pre-order the 2 Ramelia recolor figures, the light blue one and the red and black one, So when those come in, those are staying in the box, basically. But moving on to the figure itself, I do want to say before we do that, there is a lot of assembly required, and it does come with instructions, which were very helpful, and then we can move on into talking about the figure itself. I will start with Kirari right here on the left. And already at the top of her head, I've complained about this a lot with some of my other anime figures, but you can see the part where the front of the hair, like the bangs, start on the top of the head, right here where it attaches to the ahoge. The connection to the back of the head and the rest of the head, it's very rough. I don't like that, but if you're looking at it from the front, you can't even tell. And of course, you're going to be looking at it from the front. So trying to hide some bad sculpting, which that's not too forgivable, but that's understandable. I would take away a couple of points for that. If we continue to her little hair piece, the little stars, Not very well done. It's a little glossy. It's a little, I see, scuffs on this blue star, painting error right there at the bottom right left-hand corner of it. Doesn't look too good. So, again, a little disappointed in the quality of that so far. But as we move down to the rest of her hair, like, my goodness, her hair is all over the place. The color is great. The painting is fantastic. In the mass of her hair, where it all reconnects because it's nice and big and curly and wispy and all of that. It looks fantastic, honestly. The colors, the shape, I don't see many sculpting errors back here either, and you would think this is where the sculpting errors would be, where there's so much that could go wrong, but it all looks fantastic. And, aside from the usual scuffs that you would normally have on an anime figure, it looks pretty nice. There are a few seams that, of course, I obviously don't like looking at. The seams, like right here on the tips of the hair, right behind Anzu's head, doesn't look too good. But, again, slightly forgivable. Let's move back around to her face, though, and she has a cute little expression, giving us a nice little wink with her little cat mouth-looking thing, nearly sticking her tongue out, but that's just the anime thing where instead of actually giving their mouth depth, they just put their tongue right there and like, yeah. It's cute. It's a very nice expression. I don't see any errors on the face at all. The nose is nice and pointy. Comes out a little further than Anzu's. A little speck of dust right there I just wiped off. It's very expressive. It's very happy. It's very in character with, how she usually acts. She's always that super smiley, happy-go-lucky girl, and she's quite adorable. And, her face, moving down to her neck, her collarbone, it all looks good. And as we move down into the shirt, this is actually where the connection is made, because in assembly, there's a lot of assembly required for this one. You have to take off her head so you can put more pieces of the figure back on. And that is actually where the chest piece connects to the rest of the shirt. And it's pretty well hidden, I think, because it looks like it's just, your ordinary anime figure. Yeah, that's where they connect the headpiece to, the shirt piece. So there is a tiny bit of a gap right there, but again, forgivable, because usually that's where things would connect, and hiding that, like putting the actual connection there and putting the actual removal there, I think that's very smart and very well done. And moving down into her blouse itself, right here we get a great angle of her shoulder, and it looks nice and puffy. It's, her usual outfit. It looks very pretty. A nice, like, very light, wispy, purpley color. I wouldn't even know what to call that. But, no paint errors on the shirt as we move down into the arm, where there is a tiny, tiny, tiny little, like, bit of artifacting. Like, there's a tiny little bit of plastic left over right in between where her forearm meets her bicep, right here above her elbow. And then coming up into her cute little hand, you can see her nice little fingers. There's a few seams on the fingers where when it gets that small, I'm not surprised. But you can actually see the line in her palm from her thumb, and I think that's a very nice little detail. Very fine looking. And as we go down into the rest of her skirt, we can kind of give her a turnaround because Anzu is sitting on her lap. We turn around to the back of her skirt where it's nice and billowy and flowing. There is, again, a little bit of roughness on the back right here. Again, even if you're looking at it from the back, it would probably be hidden by the stand that keeps them suspended, which, again, if we want to look even further past her hair, we can see where the stand actually connects to her back. And I gotta say, it was a very difficult connection because it is very tight, which I very much appreciate, because the tighter the connection, the more stable it is. And, getting it on there was a little rough at first, but you gotta understand, it's the stability that's very good. And these figures are quite thick. They're rough. They can take a beating, So, I mean, not this one so much, and I will talk about that later. But, right where it makes that connection right down into the stand, very solid, very nice. And going back down, around her backside, the bottom of her skirt, there's again, a little bit of scuff around the edges because that's where the plastic gets thin. PVC gets thin, and it's difficult to keep that in line. But as we circle back towards the front to her knees. I don't see any glaring major issues. A little bit of dust, a little bit of roughness, and then on the purple underskirt, not too many errors there. Again, as we come back around to, this is where I'll talk about the other part of the stand, near the front of her knees, because I will talk about her knees as well. Nothing really going on with her knees or her legs as we kind of flip her over to her, again, her legs. The stand actually, I was a little confused at first as to how it would hold her up, but I see that it actually melds with her skirt. So she has 2 points of support. She has her skirt and she has the thing in her back. So the thing in her back is, this giant banana curve is where most of the weight is going to be. And this is just a supporting thing so it doesn't lean or it doesn't, fall out or bend or anything like that. And as we go underneath her skirt, looking at her legs, her calves actually look quite nice. There is a rough line where her shin will be, which does exist for some people. So that looks nice. Pink panties, tiny little bit of camel toe we can see, which a little excessive. Like, there's a little too much detail in those panties, I think. But I'm not complaining about that. And now, to the main event, the toes. Those are actually decently modeled. They're all, together as they usually would be. Toenails are also modeled out, not painted or anything. It looks a little rough because you're not supposed to be looking at the feet. We go to the soles of her feet. And again, not too many details there. The line down the middle of her foot, the ball of her foot right underneath her big toe. That's about it. They look decent. And there actually is a little bit of a seam on the right side of her, or on the outside of her foot, that is facing us, the viewer, if we were looking at this figure head on. So that's a little sloppy right there, a little unrefined, but it's not too much of an issue. Now, as we start with Anzu, the cutie pie that never wants to work, from the tip of her ahoge, she doesn't have the same problem that Kirari has, where, the line between her bangs and the back of her head is really scuffed. It's just, the usual line, which, again, that's going to happen. It is a sculpted figure. There is a little bit of scuff in her hair, though. Like, there's this little lip on the top of her head. There's a little bit of scuff in her bangs. And then, as we circle back around to the back of her head, her big giant hair poofies, they look perfectly fine. And the accessory in her hair, it looks like that one petal is missing the purple color. You can probably see that compared to the rest of the flower there. But it looks nice for the very small size it is. It's well detailed. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But, some care was given there. There are no painting errors, aside from maybe that missing purple. Like, I expected a little bit of the bleed of the purple to go, onto the hair. And that did not happen. That's very well done there. And as we move down towards Anzu's face, well, actually, right here, you can see the ear. And Anzu's ear is strangely very well detailed. Like, you can see, like, the actual ear. Like, they did that up. That's unusual, and that's a level of detail that could have been put somewhere else. Like, they could have just made it a flat little circle for an ear, but they actually went in there and did some detail, which I do appreciate, but focus in the wrong area. Looking at the face, she's making, not an annoyed expression, but, like, more gentle, laissez-faire, like, doing that little circle thing with her mouth because she doesn't talk too much. She's, that soft-spoken lolly type character. All she needs is, like, the light blue hair, and she would have matched up with every single trope from that, like, generation of anime that came out, where there was just a shit ton of light blue-haired lollies that were all soft-spoken. You know what I mean. Chino, you had, the girl from Kantai Collection, a bunch of girls from Kantai Collection, there's a lot of them. Going down into her hand, and this is where we could also kind of talk about Kirari's hand wrapping around her back, because it's all connected right here if we want to go from the tips of her fingers. Again, the hand, very well modeled, very well painted. I don't see any scuffs there. She doesn't have the problem that Kirari has, where her forearm meets her bicep. Elbow is a little pointy, but, she's very scrawny and skinny. Moving up into Kirari's hand, there is a little bit of a pink nail polish, I think, and I see like it's not actually connected there. Like you can move the hand around a little bit, squeeze it a little tighter around Anzu if you like, because you know that's how much Kirari wants to hug her. It's quite cute. And as we move into the accessory on Kirari's wrist behind Anzu's back, that little scrunchie looks quite well done. Again, a lot of detail in a place where you wouldn't think to find it, and you would think it is strange that they would put so much detail in here instead of, you know, somewhere else, like the large accessories on the hair. And as we move away from that, we can move into Anzu's blouse itself, and it is very well done. We can talk about her chest right up here as well. I do see a little black speck. I'm not sure if that's going to show up on the camera right above her collarbone, but it's, again, well modeled. It's well done. Not too many errors that I can see from here. The lines on her shirt, because you can see that the shirt is a little bit separate from the rest of her body. It looks like the lines were molded into her skin instead of being molded from the shirt and then laying on top of the skin. So that's something that bothers me a tiny bit, because the way it looks like it was sculpted was it's pushing up out of her skin, and if it was like her skin color, then that would look weird because it's attached to her. So I don't like that too much, but you know, again, the color is really nice and matches with Kirari, and it's nice and flowing. All of these frills, there's a lot of good detail here on her frills as it comes around the back of her waist to a bow on her back. And the bow on her back, we just had a bunch of bows like this on Coconut, except this one is a little thicker. It's got a little more curve to it and a little more mobility to it, but I wouldn't suggest moving it around too much. It looks nice. Of course, on something this thin and this small, you're going to have a tiny bit of scuff, so I'm not too upset about that. But we can use this opportunity while we are back here to move up into her hair. The long pigtails, one of them, the one on the right here that wraps all the way around Kirari and wraps around the stand and has the shoe attached to it. All of that looks fantastic. The entire curve, the color, it looks great. There aren't any scuffs that I can see. And then the attachment to the shoe, while it looks a little unnatural, and it actually is a little fragile, I would very much be careful with it, and I'll go into that the next hair loopy. The shoe itself looks pretty plain. You know, it's just a purple shoe with a lighter pink sole. No details on the sole, no details on, you know, the shoe's accessory. It's just a cute little bow and a ball, I guess. And yeah, that is most definitely Kirari's shoe, but I do have to question why it is attached to Anzu's hair and why it's floating. As we go into the base, I did want to mention that up there in the base of that hair loopy, that's where it makes the connection, because that is another separate piece that needs to wrap around Kirari's back. And again, very difficult to actually push that up in there, but that's how you know it's going to stay in there. So the only issue I foresee is when I eventually have to move, how am I going to take this shit apart if it's also stable? I mean, that is a good thing, because it's going to be stable sitting on your shelf. It's not going to fall over. It's not going to fall out. So, and it's disguised well, I think. I didn't push it in all the way because, again, I was afraid of manhandling and breaking Anzu's neck or something. But I didn't push it on all the way, so it doesn't look that good, but I imagine it could look better. Now, as we go into the other hair loopy, this is where I mentioned the shoe is fragile. I actually broke the shoe off of the hair, and I'm not sure if it was broken inside the box or if I took it out and then it broke, but the shoe broke off of the little hair loopy, which I'm not too broken up about because there's this perfect little white scuff. You could super glue it right back on if, you know, I really wanted to. But I think it looks cuter laying down on the base because it adds a little more depth to the figure itself. And of course, you're not going to notice that from the front. You're just going to think like, oh, that's cute. You know, it's a little modal. You can, you know, maybe put the shoe, you know, on her head or in her lap or on top of Anzu's feet or something. Or like I tried seeing if it would fit on Anzu's feet, but it falls right off. So that doesn't really matter. Then, again, going into the bow, the hair color, the loop itself, it all looks very well modeled as I look at it from the back. Again, the little scuff mark from the fact that the shoe fell off. I'm not going to take points away from that. That was probably my own fault, which, again, be careful with it. A tiny bit fragile, but also a very easy fix. Just get, like, Gorilla Glue and maybe a clothespin for, I don't know, a half hour, and it might stick. But it looks nice. It looks very well done. Now I will take this opportunity to move down into Anzu's hips, her legs, and her feet. You can't see her panties because she is sitting on Kirari's lap and because she is pushing down her skirt with that little fist she's making at the front, which, I mean, you could try to sneak a glance up there, but you're not going to see anything. Trust me, I tried. But, you know, that cute little hand holding down her skirt, the folds in her pants look very natural because she's obviously pushing the fabric between her legs, which you can see here at the front and in between her legs. It looks nice. It looks clean. I don't see any painting errors or any scuff marks. And, of course, her cute little fist. She has her hand wrapped up in a ball. There is a little bit of extra stuff at the tips of her knuckles, which that's going to happen because, you know, you can't make everything perfect. It looks nice, though. And as we move into her lower legs, her calves actually look much better than Kirari's because, you know, they're in the forefront of the picture. Her ankles have a slight more level of detail, a little more painting there. And honestly, you know, they look pretty good. They look like all the other legs of all the other anime characters that, you know, their legs are kind of the main focus. So they look nice. And then, of course, moving down into her toes, she has her right foot curled over her left foot, and you can see there's a little bit of a curl in those toes as she's resting it on her other foot. And her other foot has outstretched toes. We can look at the sole of her feet, and it actually looks much better, much more detailed than Kirari's, whereas Kirari has a little bit more artifacting there, a little bit more extra, you know, goop that they probably didn't scrape off at the end. Anzu's looks much better. Of course, there's no separation between the toes. But it looks good. It looks much better than Kirari's feet, and it looks, you know, with the right shadows, it looks natural. And as we move down her toes to the base itself, we can talk about the connections to the base. Like I mentioned, the one that is in Kirari's back is very sturdy. Very sturdy. I had a very tough time putting it in there, but now that it's in there, I'm afraid I'm going to have a really rough time taking it out of there. There's another stand, like I said, that goes up supporting the skirt, which, I mean, that's what it's doing. It's keeping them afloat. Honestly, when I first saw this figure and took it out of the box, I'm like, huh, if her legs were at a different angle, like if Kirari's legs were at a different angle, she could have just been a sitting figure. She didn't need to float like this. But I do like the fact that they are floating because Kirari is more of the mystical, whimsy, always happy type, and dragging Anzu into her, you know, mystical happiness because she thinks Anzu is small, tiny, and adorable, and is like, you know, a plush that she carries around. So I do like the fact that they are floating off of the ground. It makes things a little more difficult, but in terms of displaying them, I think that gives them a little bit more depth because, like I mentioned, with the broken shoe off of her hair, it would have looked fine floating on her hair, but I do think having it on the ground, on the stand, also adds a little bit of something. I'm not sure what, but again, it adds a little bit of depth. Adds a little bit of room. Like, it actually makes it seem like they're floating, because when you have something that's grounded, to see them up in the air like this, it's like, oh, they're floating. That's pretty. And of course, with all the wavy hair, you can imagine like mystical, magical energy, happiness energy is making them float. Speaking of floating, we also have Anzu's sandals, or Crocs, rather. For some fucking reason, she wears Crocs. They are also floating. They have a little stand of their own, and they are placed lower than her feet, lower than the other shoes would have been. And again, it's cute that they're floating, and maybe it is a blessing in disguise that the other shoe broke off, because putting it, I mean, it does look bad to put it on the big Idolmaster Cinderella Girls, but it adds more depth, basically. And as we go into the stand itself, I think it's not good. Like, I'm complained about the last stand where there was not too much personality for Coconut to show off. This one is very much similar. There are a few stars, there are a few, blades of grass. I imagine they're supposed to represent leaves floating throughout the air because they are also floating. But I think they could have done something more with that, more with their personalities, because like I said, Kirari is like, look, she's always smiling, she has these pink shoes, she's always hanging onto Anzu, she has these stars in her hair. You could have done more with the stand, like you could have made it star-shaped, or you could have maybe added a little bit of whimsy coming up, like a little few plastic, like shooting stars coming up off of the stand. Just add a little something more to make it more whimsical. But it is quite plain. It just says The Idolmaster Cinderella Girls. It doesn't even have their names on it, which, again, slightly disappointing. Because, you'll know what anime they're from. You'll know they're from an Idol anime, obviously. And then, because they're from an Idol anime, they're probably a person that doesn't know is probably going to be like, oh, so there are 50 other girls just like them too, right? And it's like, yeah, but they're cute, So again, a lot of lost potential on the stand. Overall, I would say that this is a very passable figure. It is definitely not of the highest quality and will not centerpiece my current collection because I have a lot of good figures. But this is definitely a very highly recommendable figure. I would say if you're a fan of Idolmaster in general, and this is something that you're hemming and hawing about, I would say go for it. It will definitely look cute next to my, I don't even know where I'm going to put this thing. I think I'm going to put it up next to my Ramelia and Ajin figures. But it's definitely a good figure. And because extra points for it being my two favorite characters and a figure that I've wanted for a long time. And now that I have it, I'm very happy. I'm very satisfied. And now that I'm looking at it, I am satisfied. It's it's not a figure that blew me away in terms of its quality and in terms of its detail, but it is very cute. It sets out, it does its purpose, does it well. It advertises the characters very nicely. And I would say the best parts of it are the big flowing hair, the expressions in the eyes and the faces. I think it is a very nice figure. Of course, taking away points for the broken shoe, a lot of little scuffs overall. Again, the seam on the top of Kirari's head and the scuff on her little hairpiece. It's all, a pile of little issues that kind of build up. I would say the biggest thing would be the broken shoe, but even then I can turn that into a positive. So overall, very well done figure. If you're a fan of anime in general, I might not recommend you get it because it is quite bulky. And again, there are a lot of better figures out there that could centerpiece your collections. But if, you have an Idolmaster shelf, if you like Idolmaster in general, I would recommend this. If you're thinking about watching Idolmaster, or if you're a person like me that you won't buy a figure unless you've seen the anime and this is one of those figures that you're thinking about buying, I would watch the anime because it's a good anime, and then I would buy this figure because it's a nice figure. Especially if, again, these are your best girls. Even if they're not your best girls, I would say recommendable. Go ahead and buy it. Very nice figure, and I would maybe not buy it again, kind of like what I would do with the coconut the last time I said it. But yeah. Overall, good figure. 7 out of 10. Not that I'm ranking it on anything. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. If you thought there was something I missed in this video, please let me know. If there's another piece of my collection that you would like for me to have another look at, please let me know again, because like I said in my last video, and like you will see in a little bit attached at the end of this video, I do have a very large and extensive collection of anime figures. So if you want to see more, if you want to see a different figure, if you want to do this, that, or the other thing, let me know in the comments below. If you have friends that are into anime figures, please get them to check this out if they think that this is a figure that they might be interested in. So go ahead and check us out. Thank you again for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitch. It's all in the description below, and I'm just doing this at the end of the video because that's what God told me to, because I am a content creator. And now that I've run out of things to say, I am going to say goodbye.